Hey all, welcome to Monday, welcome to Countdown Day, and today is going to be a very interesting one. There was a ton of voting on this one, and in essence, it's similar to a couple that we've sort of done in the past, but with a little bit of a twist. Before we have looked at pacifist transformers, we have looked at ones that don't necessarily like to go into combat, but this one is a little bit of a twist on that. This is the top 10 Transformers jobs, right? So I struggled with how to really approach this. So the voting was, give me a character, give me their job or designation or role, right? The top 10 Transformers jobs, designations, roles, if you will, other than being a warrior. If we're thinking in terms of military, it's the other jobs other than straight up frontline infantry, if you will. Transformers, the top 10 other Transformers jobs other than being a warrior. That's our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I am your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that is in the description down below. Also in the description down below. And if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through spring. Or of course hit the join button and become a channel member at any given time. And this is, of course, GotBot Counts Down. And this is our look at the top 10 jobs other than being a warrior. This was a topic suggested to us by our buddy Adrian, so I thank him for that. It's a bit of a twist on what we've done before, because a couple of people said to me, hey, we done Transformers that don't want to fight necessarily, right? And while that sort of roundabout fed into this list, it's not the same thing, because this one is specifically focused on those other jobs in society that need to be done other than going out and being part of, part of the war effort, so to speak, right? Society still got to keep going, baby. Still got to keep clicking along. There were a ton of votes. Of course, only 10 make the list. I will do the honorable mentions. We will do our 10, and then I will go through what some of the other votes were at the end. Our honorable mentions first. Skids, being a theoretician or a theologian. So if you study theology, you kind of study scripture, religion, and religious beliefs. Sometimes he's described that way, and sometimes he's just described as a theoretician. And that means he kind of thinks about and develops theories about how certain things work, why certain things happen. In a lot of ways, it's really close to being a philosopher. In essence, you can sort of think of Skids as like a modern day version of Aristotle or a modern day version of Socrates, so to speak, but with more modern and advanced technology to sort of feed his creative thinking. Very interesting job indeed, very interesting role indeed. We also have Swerve, who is noted as being both a bartender and a scientist doing metallurgy. I'm not super familiar with Swerve, so I can't say that I know a lot about that background. I do know he had a bar somewhere in one of the comics. And Rhinox being a maximal engineer and somewhat of a scientist himself. I think more engineer than true scientist. I think he's more of like a homegrown type of scientist, really. So those are the honorable mentions. They did not make the list. None of those jobs, none of those characters did. As we go through here, remember, we're going to have character and his job. That was the way the voting worked. It was 2 parts to it, 4 to count. Character and job. Let's kick things off, as we always do, by going to number 10 first. Coming in at number 10, we have a character who certainly works with his hands and, I would say, performs some of the most important work in all of Cybertron. Certainly some of the most important work for Transformers that move across the cosmos throughout the universe by way of space bridges, because number 10 is Bulkhead, our resident space bridge engineer technician, depending on which continuity He's the dude who works on and fixes and builds space bridges. And we all know that space bridges in all of their forms and fashions are a very important means of travel for Transformers. Whether we're using a ground bridge, whether we're moving through, I guess, points in space, we all know that that's one of their main methods of kind of cutting down time to move across time and space. They need to be maintained. It's a piece of technology. And people, or bots I should say, like Bulkhead, do just that. In fact, Bulkhead is an expert in the field. Such an expert at being a space bridge technician and takes such pride in that work that how can you deny the importance of the job? Bulkhead, space bridge technician, takes the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9 is a job and a character that, well, gets often forgotten about. Though, to be fair, this character's role is extremely important. When you are a sentient robot and you can think for yourself, sometimes you need a little bit of help to keep your thinking on track. And that brings us to Rung, the therapist, the psychiatrist, the psychologist, the guy who kind of helps you work through all the muck in your mind. But that's not the only role he has. I mean, one could say he's also, you know, God. He's also giver of life. He's also, he's Primus, right? We all know he's Primus. But we also know that in this iteration he was forgettable. Yes, that was one of the things about him. Nobody could remember him. But his wisdom, his knowledge, obviously, that could be masked as therapy and psychology, certainly speaks to trying to help his entire species to be better, to be healthier. How can you argue with the importance of that job? Yeah, mental health, one of the most important initiatives, not only here on Earth, but certainly across the cosmos and with the bots we know and love. Rung, therapist, takes the number 9 slot. Now coming in at number 8, we have a job that we'll probably see a few times on here, but I'm going to go a step further by taking it a step deeper. You'll see what I mean as we go. Number 8 is Skyfire and being a scientist, specifically technological advancement. In fact, Skyfire is such an advocate of understanding and technological advancement that his entire body gets repurposed and reused with the latest cutting edge technology all the time. Because when something new is discovered or initiated or built or constructed that is a technological advancement, well, he wants to be able to use it. That said, because he is such an avid scientist for technological advancement, it also means that he is an excellent air guardian as well as Autobot transport. In fact, he is so fast and so effective that he is often used in that capacity as well. In a way, this guy has two jobs. His first, scientist for technological advancement, is what allows him to be so effective at his second job, Autobot transport. Both jobs very important in a technologically advanced robotic society. Can't underestimate the importance of this guy and the breakthroughs and the advancements that he has helped propel. Skyfire, scientist for technological advancement, takes the number 8 slot. Now going from number 8 to number 7, we will be sticking with scientist, but a different type of scientist. This time we have Shockwave. And there's a lot of kind of different jobs that Shockwave has done over the years. We all know he's been the Decepticon left in command of Cybertron after Megatron left. Some would say that he is a military strategist. Others would say that he is a scientist that has huge dreams and machinations of global domination. But the majority of people that voted for him said scientist, specifically geneticist, by way of Transformers Prime and his work with CNA and the Predacons and cloning, as well as some people said the War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron games and his machinations and manipulations, for example, of the Dinobots. And some people even went back to what he did to RC and IDW. He works with a lot of DNA, CNA, cyber, bodies, right? Yeah, cybernetics as well as genetics. The ultimate mix of biology and technology. That's the sort of scientist, that's the sort of mad scientist, that's the sort of dangerous scientist that Shockwave is. Shockwave, geneticist, takes the number 7 slot. Now at number 6, This is probably going to seem obvious when I show you the character, but hang with me a moment because it's a little bit deeper than what you're initially going to think. The character is first aid. And while naturally we would think medic or we would think doctor, I'm going to take it a step deeper. Yes, he is a doctor or a medic, if you will. But specifically, he is a Titan specialist, especially in terms of Metroplex's TCOG. I mean, there's a whole episode dedicated to the fact that he doesn't want to fight, dedicated to the fact that he only wants to help. He's a healer, specifically a master of Titans. So if you think of it in terms of medicine, you know, you have general surgeons, you have cardiac surgeons, you have neurosurgeons. Well, think of this guy as a Titan surgeon. Yeah, first aid, doctor, Titan specialist. Takes the number 6 slot. And now a hush falls over the crowd because we have reached the most coveted of all locations, man. The halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we have my absolute favorite character with, oh, let me get that down, Wheeljack. Yeah, with Wheeljack. I love this guy, man. Not that atrocious monstrosity they're trying to pass off as Wheeljack and Rise of the Beast, but Wheeljack, or the Prime Wheeljack, any of them. When it came to voting for jobs, we all know that Wheeljack's had a couple of different jobs depending on the continuity he is in. But by and far, everybody said inventor, right? So while certainly a scientist and an engineer and a mechanic and a builder, all very valid and all true and all probably stem from being an inventor, we know that this guy uses his engineering, his physics, and his mechanical know-how to build ever so many gadgets, objects. Some work, some don't. And of course, he's one of the godfathers of the Dinobots. An inventor, a visionary. How can you argue with the importance of that role, the importance of Wheeljack? Wheeljack, inventor, takes the number 5 slot. Now number 4 is another scientist on the list by way of Perceptor. And Perceptor is a scientist in the truest sense of the word, so much so that he turns into a microscope. In terms of kind of subsets here, again, as we've looked at, you know, with a couple of previous characters, his would be physics, chemistry, and microbiology. For sure, he deals with the smallest of science. Now, he'll deal with the biggest as well, but he has been the guy who has saved the day more than once, you know? The whole microbot fiasco when they went inside Megatron, or the solution to cosmic rust, or there's another one that I had in mind, and right now can't think on it. It's gone again, gone again. But ever so many veins of science kind of come from Perceptor. In fact, all other scientists probably use this guy for a consult now and then. Yeah, chemistry, physics, and microbiology. The 3 key facets that propel this guy into really any scientific field. How can you argue with the importance of being a scientist and, more importantly, the importance of being Perceptor? He takes the number 4 slot. Oh yeah, we are into the top 3, and at number 3 we have Beachcomber. His role, some people jokingly said hippie, which, I mean, is a description of his character, but it's not exactly a job or a designation, I don't think. What is his designation? Again, he's a scientist, specifically in his case, a geologist. That's what this guy's role basically is. I don't think we saw much of it in G1, but he was certainly enamored with the beauty and nature of Earth. A perfect place to be a geologist. I can't imagine that there was a lot of rocks to study on Cybertron, but what do I know? Maybe he traveled all around the cosmos because there's a lot of planets out there with a lot of unique geology to them. And this guy would be the one to study them all, to master them all. Yeah, sure, he's a hippie, but he's a smart hippie, and he takes the number 3 slot. Coming in at number 2 is a fan favorite by way of Soundwave. And his roles, dual roles, because they had equal votes really, for communications and espionage. I think both of those go together. I think communications is more in the vein of what we are looking for on this list. However, espionage and spying is Also equally important for intelligence, but it's also not necessarily combat or battle or being a warrior, so it still counts. Soundwave is one of the most important of all Transformers characters. Arguably, Blaster serves the same role for the Autobots as well as being maybe a morale officer. Although the Shattered Glass version of this guy's a morale officer. Soundwave is the one who has eyes and ears everywhere. Whether it's himself or whether it's his minions, right? Laserbeak, Ravage, Rumble, Ratbat, so on and so forth. They all report back to this guy. Soundwave knows all and sees all whether he's there or not. He's also the one who can decode and unscramble languages and encoded and I guess any transmissions really, right? He's the one who can decipher, I guess, secret codes that are used for languages and whatnot. Like, if it's something that needs to be understood, needs to be analyzed, that has to do with intelligence or communication, this is your guy to go to. This is the guy that's going to figure it out, whether by himself or with his crew of minions. Soundwave, communication specialist and espionage specialist. Dual role for this fantastic bot, and he takes the number 2 slot. And number 1 most important character job other than Warrior would have to fall to Ratchet. This is the Siege Ratchet, and of course his role is Doctor, Subsection, Surgeon, General Surgeon. He does it all, he fixes it all. If you're injured, I mean, yeah, okay, you could go to Pipes, sure, you could have First Aid, who is probably pretty equal to this guy. Sure, you could probably go and Hoist might be able to help you, but for the most serious of serious, it got to be Ratchet. He is the best. If you've ever watched any of these like medical TV shows, you always have that one superstar doctor. Well, in the world of the Transformers, that superstar doctor is going to be Ratchet. And for that reason, he takes the number 1 slot. And there you go, man. 10 down to 1 once again. Some terrific jobs there, from Space Bridge Technician to Therapist to, I guess, Technological Advancement Scientist slash Air Transport to Geneticist to Doctor, Titan Specialist to Inventor to Biologist, Physicist and Microbiologist, Physicist and Chemist to Geologist to Communication Specialist, Espionage Specialist to number 1 with Doctor, General Surgery. But some other ones that had some great votes as well. Bumblebee, being a scout, for example, had some votes. Also, Bumblebee had votes as an Energon salesman. Lysac as a servant to Death's Source, so as a servant, right, like a butler or a maid or whatever, right? Inferno, search and rescue and firefighter. Jazz, special operations. Wheelie Pest, I like that one, I thought that was pretty good. G-Axis, society builder scientist, basically. Starscream scientist. What else do we have here? Prowl officer or military strategist. Blur data courier. Optimus Prime commander, right? I already mentioned Blaster. Who else? Cosmos, astronaut, Wreck-Gar, scavenger. Oh, Needlenose, being a fashion designer before the war, right? Alpha Trion, I like this. Archivist, yes, but also everyone's grandpa. Thought that was great. Rewind is also an archivist. Punch Counterpunch as a spy. Orion Pax as both a dock worker and an officer and a data clerk. All had votes. Reflector, reconnaissance. Grimlock, king. Yeah, I like that one. Cerebros, Titan head unit. Nightbeat, detective. Six Shot, ninja specialist or martial arts specialist. Nautica, xenobiologist. I mean, I'm not familiar with the character that well, but cool, that's a really good one. Magnificus, also scientist. I like this. Scrapper, Of course, an engineer and a builder, right? But really that could apply to all of the Constructicons, right? I guess it goes to Scrapper because he's the leader. Megatron as a miner, we know that that exists as well. Unicron, Planet Eater, like that one. Lifeline, the Paradron Medic. Scourge, the Tracker. You gonna argue with Unicron? I like this one. Hot Rod, Cavalier. I mean, that kind of describes his personality. But I don't know if on Cybertron they really needed Cavaliers. And Scalpel, Doctor, Skybite, Poet. Love that one. Skybite being a poet. Omega Supreme, Defense Base. What else? Grapple. I originally thought Engineer, but it was corrected and rectified. He's actually an Architect. Sea Spray, Naval Defense, and just for good measure, good old Swindle, because of course, he's a merchant. And there you go, so many great votes, even more than that. Yeah, I mean, this was a really interesting one. It let you know just how many jobs still need to be done in society, even amidst a cosmos expanding war, right? So I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. Also, please hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and especially do not forget for 1 second that you right there, somehow, some way, each and every single solitary day, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old fashioned way right here inside the videos.